What was your dream, Frasier?
Oh, all right. Starts out in a seedy motel room. I'm naked.
Interesting.
Yes, well, then the shower turns off, and out from the bathroom steps a man. All right, go ahead, let me have it.
Are you saying that now, or is that a quote from the dream?
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what are we up to tonight?
Today, we are talking about all the episodes of Frasier that we have watched for the podcast.
Frasier, that lovable psychiatrist who couldn't sing enough about tossed salad and scrambled eggs. Yep. It's all things Frasier. We're doing a mixtape episode. Any schoolboy knows that our podcast normally follows the structure where we choose a trope, a sitcom trope, such as entering a dance contest, getting a fake ID, running for school president, etc. And we talk about 4 different sitcom episodes from throughout history that fall into that trope. But every once in a while, we look backwards and we collect all of our conversations, or at least the first 4 of our conversations about a certain show, cram it together, make it a mixtape. And that's what we're doing with Frasier. We've actually talked about Frasier 5 times. Yep. So we'll do the first 4 times we talked about Frasier on the podcast. What were the episodes in which we discussed Mr. Crane? Or I'm sorry, Dr. Crane.
The Doctor's Crane. Yeah. To be clear. So we discussed Frasier on Dream episodes. We watched season 4, episode 3, The Impossible Dream. Obsessed with Chess. We watched season 3, episode 18, Chess Pains. Our Shakespeare episode, we watched season 8, episode 12, The Show Must Go Off. And for our 100th episodes podcast, where we watched 100th episodes, we watched season 5, episode 4, the 1000th show.
Yes, because as we get into in the segment, of course, they tied into the 1000th episode of his radio TV show, which is probably daily.
His radio show, yes.
Right. Radio TV show. I stand by what I said.
You know, the same way, like many podcasts have video components. Right. Ours does not.
That was not the case
in 90s
radio show.
Frasier's radio show.
And look, these are good tropes. These were fun episodes. The Shakespeare one, the chess one. I believe the one we're leaving off the list because it's the most recent was the New Year's Eve episode, which was also very fun. Yes. So that's what we're going to be getting into. So I guess, hey, if you've already listened to the podcast, there's probably no reason to listen to this because you've already heard them. Oh, wait. There's more. Once again, I have devised a challenge for you, Amy, and for you, the listener.
Oh.
This is not just some dumb quiz we grabbed from the internet. I have created let's see, how should I explain this? Okay. Frasier, the TV show from the 1990s, right?
Yes.
Stellar cast. Would you agree?
Yes.
So I have chosen 4 of the actors,
the characters,
from Frasier. We've got Kelsey Grammer, who portrayed Frasier Crane himself. We've got David Hyde Pierce, who portrayed Niles Crane, his brother. Mm-hmm. We have John Mahoney, who portrayed Martin Crane,
correct,
their father, and Jane Leaves. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Yes, I think
so. Jane Leaves was Daphne, right?
Yes. Oh, and I am less familiar with her work, so I'm excited to learn things.
Well, so this is what we're going to do. Those 4 actors, in addition to starring in the TV show Frasier, have had illustrious careers on the silver screen. So what I'm going to do in between all of these segments that we're re-listening to is I'm going to give you some movie titles, some feature films, and you're going to tell me which of those four people, Grammer, Pierce, Mahoney...
Sorry, Hyde Pierce.
Isn't Hyde his middle name?
I think he's a hyphenator.
Okay, Hyde Pierce. Fine. Grammer, Hyde Pierce, Mahoney... and Leaves, which one of them portrayed the character in the movie that I'm saying?
All right. Well, hopefully I'll be able to get Daphne by process of elimination, because I am much more familiar with the others, but we'll see.
Yes, we shall see. So before we get into our first segment, I'm going to give you a few of these. We'll see how it goes, okay?
Warming up. Here we go. Give me some easies.
All right. I am going to start with, I think, some relatively easy ones. In 2006, one of these actors played the role of Hank McCoy, a.k.a. Beast, in X-Men The Last Stand. Who played Beast in X-Men The Last Stand, 2006?
My guess is Grammer.
That was Kelsey Grammer, yes. X-Men The Last Stand, of course.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
Scourge of most X-Men fans. I actually consider it kind of overrated and better than some of the later ones.
You mean underrated?
Yes, I consider it underrated and better than some of the later ones. Okay, in the year 1999, one of the Frasier cast members portrayed Henry in the classic comedy Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes.
Who was that?
And we're celebrating is it like the 25th year or something reunion, anniversary of Wet Hot this summer. That would be the illustrious David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce, of course, was in Wet Hot American Summer. He had his love affair with Janine Garofalo.
And the funny, like the funny little thing about that movie, now we know everybody from it, right, is like crazy famous. Bradley Cooper, Amy Poehler, like Paul Rudd, all these people, all the people from the state, whatever. But at the time, David Hyde Pierce and Janine Garofalo, those were the big gets.
He would be a get for sure. Okay. The 2006 masterpiece, Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties. Who portrayed Eenie, right? This is a voiceover role.
Okay.
Who portrayed the role of Eenie in Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties?
Oh, boy. Eenie. I'm going to guess... Leaves.
That was Leaves. Yes,
okay.
Very good. And finally, for now, we've got plenty more. The Hudsucker Proxy, 1994.
Oh, hell yeah.
Who was the chief, the newspaper chief?
The newspaper chief was Mahoney.
Yes, John Mahoney. Excellent performance as the chief. One of my favorite movies of all time. Coen Brothers. Hudsucker Proxy from 1994. Very good. So far, you're 4 for 4. And we will continue with this after we listen to our first segment, which was from our Dreams episode. This is going way back in the podcast. This is the episode where we talked about Punky Brewster having the dream where she was old.
Yes.
Remember My Aged Valentine? This was...
she wanted to, marry her dog.
Yeah. We covered Growing Pains, where little Ben Seaver had to have surgery. He had a dream where he met the skipper from Gilligan's Island.
And he was having his tonsils out, and little, what's his name from Salute Your Shorts was little redheaded kid.
Bobby Budnick, yep. We covered Who's the Boss, where this was another fantasy dream where they had a dream that they were married, right? And that episode concluded with this segment about Frasier, the Season 4 episode called The Impossible Dream, and here it is.
That just wasn't the way of things anymore. People weren't watching TV on Saturday. They were doing other things.
All right, moving on to Frasier.
Frasier, Season 4, Episode 3, The Impossible Dream.
Yeah, Frasier is a big one. We have discussed the man on Cheers. He ran the seminar for people who are afraid to fly. But now we're getting solo Frasier.
Frasier, to me, it's one of those ones that anytime it was on and I was home, I would watch it. Or if it was on in reruns, I would watch the rerun. It's a show that I love, but I have never watched it all the way through. And I couldn't tell you like the various storyline arcs and stuff like that. But it never fails. Anytime I watch an episode, it's good for a great laugh. The acting is amazing. I mean, just like what a cast, right? You got John Mahoney, who is an amazing actor. David Hyde Pierce, another amazing actor. Kelsey Grammer, I think of all the three of them, is the weakest in terms of his like acting prowess. But that could just be because he's played the same guy for his whole life. Like he can't even use his real voice anymore because the Frasier voice has taken over his whole life.
Yeah. And people have their opinions about him off camera and on. I feel like he's become a little bit of a controversial figure. But we should say this is a spinoff, obviously, and this is one of the great spinoff success stories, and so when we're watching these YouTube videos about, the 12 failed sitcom spinoffs and why didn't they work? And it seems like, they keep trying these things. It never works. You wonder, why do they keep doing it? It's because like once in a while when they hit the jackpot like this, it's amazing. And I think the reason why Frasier is so successful is because they honed in and chose the one thing that they were going to take from Cheers, and the rest of the DNA of the show is completely different and new. It's all new people. It's a whole new vibe. It's a different kind of show, still a multicam sitcom, but it's not an ensemble the way Cheers was. It's not trying to beat Cheers at its own game. It's doing its own different thing.
Sure. And it is an ensemble in a different way. It's not everybody in the workplace, right? You've got a family, and then you've got like live-in help, and then you've got a coworker.
Yeah.
And so that is it's sort of the like way that a single person moving through the world kind of has the mix of family, your friends and family, that sometimes it's colleagues and sometimes it's people in your social circle and sometimes it's people who are related to you. But so I think the thing that Frasier kind of always got right is that they were able to balance the Frasier's whole thing of being sort of high class and snooty with his dad, who was the down to earth, retired cop kind of energy. And then you had Niles, who also had that upper crust kind of snooty thing.
Yeah.
But then you had Perry Gilpin, who played Roz. So in every aspect of Frasier's life, he had Roz, who was a little bit more kind of down homey, and his dad, who was a little bit, more working class. He had this reality check to his, everything is so, I'm just Frasier.
Lots of foils, lots of contrasts. I will say, I think David Hyde Pierce is the secret weapon of the show. I think that's a big part of why it was so successful.
John Mahoney also.
Look, they're all great, but for me, I think he's the one that they were like, this Kelsey Grammer guy has this very specific thing that he does. Can we find somebody who does something that's very similar, but also fundamentally different? And he just has that. His whole look, his whole manner is just, it's in some ways a contrast to Frasier. In some ways, it's the same as him. And I think the two of them, as we'll see in this episode, when you get them trying to sort of attack a problem together, it's very fun.
Yes.
So this particular episode, it's kind of an outlier from the other Dream episodes we're talking about. This isn't one where it's like, okay, we're going to have some issue that comes up and then the centerpiece of the episode is going to be this weird fantasy sequence. This is going to be one where Frasier is having a recurring dream that we see variations on several times, and it's all about him trying to figure out what it means. And because this is the 1990s, this is going to be all about gay panic, right?
Yes. And so again, I think for their time, they did a pretty good job at not trying to go full gay panic. You get Frasier questioning his sexuality, not in a way where he's actually questioning his sexuality, but he's saying, should I be questioning my sexuality? So he's not upset that he might be gay. He's upset that there is this dream that is disturbing him and he might need to have a think about his sexuality. And then you have his dad, who also, he's more old fashioned, and you knew he didn't want, Frasier didn't want to tell his dad about the dream because he was worried he was going to be judged. And then when he does tell his dad about the dream, his dad's like, I don't want to hear this kind of stuff, but then kind of immediately gets past it and gives him some pretty good advice, but where we see what you're saying is that in the hesitancy to talk about the subject matter of the dream.
Yeah, so let's back up and explain what's going on here. His dream is every time he wakes up in bed in a hotel or a motel and he's got a tattoo on his arm that says Chesty.
Right.
And somebody's in the shower, right? We hear, like, from the next room, from the bathroom, we hear the sounds of someone in the shower. And at least the first time we see the dream anyway, he sort of gets this look like, oh, okay, I guess I got lucky. And then this guy comes out of the dream, who I guess is part of the regular cast.
He's a recurring character. He is one of the other radio personalities at Frasier's work, and he is a food critic, and he's very flamboyant.
Okay, so he is an openly gay man. That's part of his whole thing.
Who often makes sexual innuendos.
Okay.
Like him eating the eclair in that scene where we see them in real life, and through the studio window, he's biting on the eclair and being like, oh, don't you want some?
John Waters, this is your in-your-face crazy guy. Okay, so that's who he just slept with. This guy kind of comes out of the shower and kind of mugs to the camera and maybe says a line or something, and Frasier wakes up horrified. And that's the dream that he's kind of going around asking everybody or sort of fretting about, what does this mean? And we should also say the other sort of piece of the premise here is he's in a slump professionally. The callers on his call-in radiotherapy show are boring him.
Right. So he's in this slump at work. The callers are not providing any challenge. He has this one caller, Rudy, who is like, they call him Rudy the Crier, and he calls and cries, and that's all it is. Like, so he's not getting to activate his intellect in any way. And that will come, we'll find, we'll hear more about that later. But so the first person that he goes to tell his dream about and try to figure out what's going on is Roz. She offers him zero help and then just spreads the gossip around the office.
Yeah. He's going to try to obscure the whole truth about his dream in different ways with his different conversation partners. So at first he tries, tell them about the dream, tell them it's about a coworker, just don't tell them who or the gender. So that's what he does with Roz, but sort of by process of elimination, it comes out that he's talking about Gil, that's this guy, and word spreads like wildfire, and like you said, he doesn't get any insight.
Right. And then the next scene, we are in the coffee shop, which at this moment, I got up to go get a cup of coffee because Frasier always does this to me. Every single time Frasier and Niles are sitting in the coffee shop having the scene, because there's always at least one in every episode where they're in the coffee shop, having the scene where they're drinking their coffee, it makes me want to have a cup of coffee.
It's the 90s. It's, between Friends, Frasier, the rise of Starbucks. Yeah, we loved our coffee. I have to say, this scene, this is what I'm talking about, with the two of them sort of attacking a problem together. And some of the quotes, their hoity-toity way of talking to each other. When Frasier tells Niles, he basically does the asking for a friend thing.
Yes.
And Niles goes, oh, Frasier, that gambit hasn't worked since we were in knee socks. That's his way of saying, since we were little kids. Yeah. So the two of them are trying to figure out this dream. And this is where I say we get a little bit of the 90s gay panic stuff. Now, you're trying to draw this distinction between like, well, he's not considering his sexuality, but he's considering it or whatever. The bottom line to me is anytime it's suggested, like Frasier, this might be, the phrase that Niles uses later is wish fulfillment, but anytime it's suggested, you might have some sort of homosexual component to your psyche. There might be something going on there. He sort of gets up and spins around and gets all flustered. No, change the subject.
Yeah.
And again, it's the 90s. It's played for laughs.
Right, because we weren't allowed to be on a spectrum of sexuality in the 90s. You were either straight or you were gay. There was none of this, like, I'm on my way to, I'm in between this.
And that being mischaracterized was just not okay. It's the same thing as you throw like a girl or something. It's just like, it's not okay to call a straight man gay, full stop. And so we get that, we get that
we're going to pull that clip out of context and ruin you. Jay is going to be canceled forever because he took a big pause before he said that.
Like Parker Lewis style.
Parker Lewis style.
Yeah. And I just felt like, dude, you're a therapist, like you're a psychiatrist. It's not okay to have this like heebie-jeebie, oogie-woogie, oh my God, like we can't talk about gay stuff, like this idea that I could not possibly acknowledge that possibility in myself, for a therapist was quite alarming to me.
Yeah, no, and that is a point well made because you're absolutely right. And I think when we see the other side of that, when he's trying to get beyond that, is when he's having the same conversation with his dad later on, because he is the more progressive one, right? So like in that situation, Frasier is the more progressive one. And so he's having to be more open and talk about it in such a way that will help bring his dad over to the side of, you can talk about being gay. And that is truly when he starts asking, should I be questioning my own sexuality? Whereas earlier on, when he's having the conversation with Niles, he won't hear it. He's like, I'm not questioning. Like, this dream has to be about something other than the fact that I'm questioning my own sexuality. I know I'm straight. I'm fine. That's not what this is about. Let's keep driving. Let's keep pushing. But the inability to talk about it and the uncomfort that he displays for comedic effect is absolutely a sign of the times.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's just like, but come on, guys, he's gay. He might be gay. Come on, it's funny. It's funny. Like, you absolutely get that vibe. But so the story, again, unlike our other episodes, which sort of focus on one central dream, he has this sort of trial and error approach to figuring out the dream. There's this idea, as Niles puts it, if you figure out what the dream means, then it passes from your subconscious to your conscious mind and you stop having the dream. So it's a matter of going, okay, the gay guy in the shower symbolizes, my pet rock from 3rd grade. And so now problem solved, so he keeps trying these different interpretations. I thought it was very funny. He and Niles do this like stream of consciousness thing where they're like, well, I think this is sort of like a Carl Jung thing of like, let's analyze the specific objects, right? No detail is too small. So he goes, okay, well, I had a croissant, food, butter. I'm on a diet. He goes, I'm on a diet. Do you think that could be helpful? And Niles goes, yeah, you could stand to lose a few pounds. But being about food is one of the interpretations that they try. And so we see again and again him having the dream, like these different variations of like, who's it going to be this time or whatever. And he can't quite get it.
Right. So when they think it's about food, he says, oh, that's it. That must be what it is. I'm upset because I'm not, I should give myself a break on my diet. I'm going to have something. And then he orders something there at the coffee shop. And he thinks when he goes to sleep that night, the dream will no longer recur. And he has it again. Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And Daphne finds out about this. And I only bring that up because it was another great Frasier and nihilism when he realizes that Niles has told her about it. He goes, Niles, you gossipy fishwife. Just another great Frasier quote. But yeah, he ends up talking to the dad, who at first won't hear it, and then is kind of like, all right, fine, we can talk about it if you want to, or whatever. And yeah, he's like, well, I have no choice but to confront the possibility that I might be gay, and he kind of like stares the abyss dead in the eyes. But then it's like one way or another, he comes to the realization of like, oh no, it's Chekhov's professional dissatisfaction,
Right. That was from the conversation with his dad. So earlier they have a coded conversation with the dad, with John Mahoney. And because Frasier and Niles think that Hester or Hesty, Chesty on his arm comes from their mother's name, Hester. And maybe she had a nickname that was Hesty. And so they have this like coded conversation, and Frasier, again, is like, you're right, this is just an Oedipal dream. That's all it is. No big deal. Goes to bed, has the same dream again, only with a few changes. And then, we go on about the episode. So when he has the talk with his dad, he has the moment where, like you said, he is like, okay, I think I need to really interrogate my sexuality. And his dad's like, Frasier, you can do that, fine, but, you're straight as long as I've known you. You know what I mean?
He just points out, like, you're 40-something years old. Like, you
already would have known.
Yeah.
Like, you were a kid that was always exposed to any type of thing that you wanted. You were never held back in any way. And Frasier's like, you're right, I was very sensitive. Like, I probably would have come to this already if that's what I was interested in.
Frasier's having the same thoughts, I think every straight person has had at some point or another, where he's going, well, I wasn't good at sports, or I wasn't, like everyone has that moment where they're like, oh, gee, I don't know. But yeah, his dad sort of shrugs it off.
Right.
I also want to add, when his dad first gets all uncomfortable, when he first introduces the subject, he immediately grabs a sponge and starts cleaning the outside of the refrigerator with a sponge, a dry sponge.
He's going to keep himself busy so he doesn't have to have this conversation.
I just thought that was very funny business. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that, like, as Frasier is sort of talking his way through this, he kind of takes himself back to the professional, sort
boredom.
Of slump he's in. Yeah.
Right. And so his dad says, well, if nothing else, you've had your nose in these books all along. Like, it probably means nothing if you can't find it in the books. And Frasier goes, Dad, that's it. I've had my nose in these books. This is what it was. The whole reason for this dream was that I had nothing intellectually stimulating at work. And so my mind has come up with something that will be intellectually stimulating for me. Oh, joy. Oh, rapture. I'm not a gay.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. He's relieved to solve his dream, like we said before. And so I guess he does.
But then he has the dream again, right?
Right. So he has the dream, and this time Sigmund Freud comes out of his bathroom.
No, he knocks on the front door. Because Frasier wakes up, there's no tattoo on his arm, there's no shower running. He's like, all right. Or he wakes up in the dream.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, great. This is, the dream has changed. It's different. Now I can just go back to sleep. And he lays back down to go back to sleep in the dream. And there's a knock at the door, and it's Freud.
Yeah. But he comes in and is like, great, you solved the dream. Congratulations. And at first Frasier's like, oh, of course, this is the perfect, like, victory dream, being congratulated by Sigmund Freud. And
I have so many questions for you, he says.
Yeah. And he basically, Freud gets into bed and is like, let's do it.
Yeah. He's like, well, I'm happy to answer all of your questions, but first, and he gets into under the covers in the bed, and Frasier is like, oh, okay. Just like giving in to the fact that he's going to have homoerotic dreams.
Yeah, I don't know. This one, I think this was a pretty fun episode, but almost not part of the trope. I feel like they don't use that trope of the dream in the same way. But then again, Frasier being a psychiatrist and that being the premise of the show, it sort of makes sense that they would do something different with it.
Right, that they would take the dream sequence aspect into this recurring thing that he was trying to work out in real life, rather than have the whole working out of the thing happen in the dream, which is all of our other shows. That's what they do. They have the person in the dream sequence realize the error of their ways, and or have some moment of clarity where, you know, the subconscious becomes the conscious, and then they wake up. Frasier wasn't getting that in his dream. He kept waking up early trying to solve the problem. So if he maybe had stayed asleep longer, if he didn't wake up at the time he kept waking himself up, you know, or being so aware in his own mind during the dream, then we could have gotten a different episode. But to your point, this is what you do with the show when you have the lead actor being the psychiatrist.
Yeah, you got to imagine a lot of the stories are going to be about him having to use his psychoanalytical skills on himself.
Right.
So I don't know, looking back on these... Okay, that was the Frasier segment from our Dreams episode. Next up is going to be our chess segment. This was from our chess episode where Frasier had a rivalry with his dad. But first, a few more Frasier cast member filmography, I don't know, examples.
Questions.
Okay, this is another voice. In fact, this round is all voiceover.
Ooh, okay, this is going to be tough.
This one, again, starts relatively easy. The 1999 motion picture Toy Story 2, The Prospector. Who played the Prospector in Toy Story 2?
Ooh, that's good. I'm going to guess Kelsey Grammer.
Yes, that was Kelsey Grammer. Another voiceover performance, the 1996 Henry Selick stop-motion film James and the Giant Peach, adapted, of course, from the novel by model citizen Roald Dahl. Which one of these actors played the ladybug in James and the Giant Peach?
Oh, that's a good question. So now in A Bug's Life, or is it Ants? I always get those movies confused. But in one of those, they have a ladybug that's played by Dennis Leary.
That's right.
And there's a big joke about how
Ladybug isn't a lady. It's
aren't
just a
ladies.
name.
It's a man. They're male. So I am going to lean on that. And I'm going to go with Mahoney.
You fell right into my trap. I was hoping you would defeat yourself with that logic, because the answer is leaves.
Oh, man!
In the case of James and the Giant Peach, the
ladybug is a lady?
was a lady.
And see, I have not read that, but I used to read it to my students years and years and years ago when I first started teaching. And that's been, 20 plus years now, so I don't remember.
But continuing on the insect theme, we're coming to 1998, where, as you mentioned, we had a Volcano Dante's Peak situation, a Armageddon Deep Impact scenario, where there were two animated feature films about the lives of bugs.
Oh!
One of them was the Pixar film A Bug's Life, in which one of the Frasier cast members played Slim. Who played Slim? In A Bug's Life?
Hyde Pierce.
That is correct. Yeah. David Hyde Pierce played Slim, and that very same year, the film Ants, starring, of course, another model citizen, Woody Allen.
I mentioned these, and now they're the questions. That's hilarious.
Right. One of these actors played the role of Drunk Scout, right? The illustrious role of Drunk Scout in the film Ants. Who was that?
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to guess Mahoney.
Yes, very good. John Mahoney played Drunk Scout in the 1998 film Ants. Much more to come, but now we're going to listen to our Frasier segment from our chess episode. This was a very fun podcast. I don't even remember this. We talked about the Danny Thomas show.
Yes.
That does not ring a bell.
That was it was my first experience with the Danny Thomas show. And we found out the Danny Thomas show beget so many other sitcoms.
Yeah. This is wild. So yes, this episode started with that. This is one of the rare cases because we always cover the shows chronologically. So usually something like Frasier is going to be towards the end, but this was the rare case where Frasier was second. And then we covered the Bernie Mac show and The Odd Couple. Those had episodes about chess. But yes.
The Odd Couple, like the new one that would be after Frasier?
Yes, the new one with Thomas Lennon and Matthew Perry, R.I.P. So yes, this is the Frasier segment from our episode all about being obsessed with chess. Here it is. Get into some of those fancy moves in the next one. So let's move on to Frasier.
Season 3, episode 18, Chess Pains.
Yep, Frasier we've covered, just once now, right? Maybe twice.
Yeah.
This starts with Frasier presenting Niles with a breathtaking, as he puts it, ornate antique
It is
chess.
Very ornate.
Yes. Now, this is another sort of real-life chess thing. The really sort of cool designer chess sets sometimes are hard to play on because the pieces don't look like themselves. You know?
In this kind of thing, it's like if you go to reach something, you're going to get stabbed.
Yeah.
It's very pokey.
Yeah. You see a lot of times there are these like Lord of the Rings chess sets and stuff, and they're like really cool, but you have to just remember that like frickin', Eldor the dragon is like the bishop or something. Yeah. Niles says that chess makes him melancholy because he used to play with Maris.
Right. So we're in season 3, so we're around the time that they are separated. They're not divorced yet, but they've separated. And so Niles is sad, missing this crazy hose beast of a woman that he had been with for so long, but he is just sad that he doesn't have this person to kind of like high maintenance take care of, right? So Daphne recommends he get a dog.
Yes. That's going to be Niles's B plot for this, is that he's going to have a little dog. So Frasier plays chess with his dad. Now, is it just to kind of pass the time? Like, how does he get his dad to play him? Because his dad's not that interested.
His dad's not that interested, but, he's so excited. Frasier's so excited because he has this new set. And he's like, his dad's kind of like, well, checkers is more my game, but I guess I'll play with you. You seem so excited. So they sit down and they play. And, he just handily beats him.
Well, he beats him in like 2 moves or 3 moves or something, which this is all going to get explained as the episode plays out, but I saw that and I was like, oh wait, there's certain specific ways to do that. Like to win a chess game in 2 moves or 3 moves or whatever, those are what you're talking about. There's a name for that particular set of moves, So I'm going, oh, did his dad do that? Or is this just so sort of silly and cartoony that they just don't care? Because that's what they would do on like Saved by the Bell or something.
Right.
It's just be like, he beat him.
Yeah. Then the next day at the coffee shop, which by the way, I love this about Frasier, that they're like their other place that's not the apartment or the office and they always have these great little cozy scenes in this cozy little coffee shop that's very brown. And it just like, I just love it.
It's a better coffee shop, I would say, than Central Perk.
Oh, absolutely. Central Perk is much more like a cafe style kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's more of a flea market.
This feels very, it just feels very European, like a nice little, like corner cafe thing that you would have a coffee in. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of Frasier. Every time they have a good little scene, and there's always like some witty repartee.
Yeah, it's usually Niles and Frasier.
Yes. But then sometimes Frasier and Roz, Roz is in and out there. But it's nice. I really enjoy those coffee shop scenes. Okay, side note, moving on. But so at the coffee shop the next day, that's when Frasier sort of has this realization because he's got a different board and he's replaying it in his mind and trying to figure out. And he goes, Dad stumbled into the something defense. Yeah. And so that's how he beat me. He, must not have known. That's so funny. I can't believe I didn't recognize it. He couldn't possibly know it on purpose, we'll have to play again.
Yeah, so what this is getting at is this central conflict, not a huge Frasier watcher. I can still obviously pick up on this as one of the main themes of his dad being this more sort of working class, not having these pretensions, these weird intellectual, tendencies that Frasier and Niles do, but at the end of the day, being perhaps just as intelligent or more so than they are, and not having this sort of hubris about his intelligence that they do. And so Frasier, unsurprisingly, it really sticks in his craw that his dad beat him. And, his dad seemingly has this sort of, the passé term would be idiot savant, this sort of like effortless skill at chess. It's very funny when Frasier plays him the second time. He's doing the thing that I always do of keeping his finger on each piece for 20 minutes until he can commit to the move. And he's giving this whole monologue about how this time, Dad, I'm like a general leading my troops into battle. And his dad goes, checkmate, Schwarzkopf, and beats him again.
Yep, easy peasy. So, of course, Frasier is just like we saw in the last time where he was having these dreams and he couldn't figure out what was going on. We were back in the coffee shop the next day and he's trying to debrief it with Niles. And he's like, Niles, I can't understand, blah, blah, what is going on? And Niles is like, well, may I suggest that it's just a common Oedipal complex, because you don't want to beat your father.
Yeah, he suggests that Frasier is sabotaging himself, losing on purpose, sort of, subliminally or subconsciously for this edible thing. So again, for me, not being a huge fan of this, just comparing this to that Dreams episode we watched, like I'm seeing the formula now, and I don't say that disparagingly. No. It's fun. I see the way Frasier, in his own way, it's just like we talked about with Bob Newhart, of like the kind of smart, hoity-toity guys can still do the George Jefferson, kind of
be dumb.
Pride goeth before a fall, and learning their lesson and all that. And so, we're at that point in the Frasier formula where he debriefs with Niles and strategizes or sort of analyzes, I should say, himself, sort of applies their psychotherapy expertise upon himself. They get to this Oedipal thing. And again, like the Dreams episode, Frasier, I guess, being a therapist, is just really into this notion that, like, once you have named the problem, it goes away.
That's right. I know what it is now, and so it's good. I won't be a problem anymore. I can go back and play Dad and beat him handily, and it will be just fine. Yeah. Because the alternative is he's actually just beating me. So it must be that I'm self-sabotaging.
Yeah. And as this is going on, he's playing his dad again and again, and it does become more and more farcical. I would argue maybe a little too farcical, where his dad is literally asleep, like he's nodding off, while Frasier is like pouring all of his intelligence to it, and his dad just like, is barely even conscious.
Well, I got the impression from that one where his dad was like falling asleep that they had played multiple games throughout the evening. It was getting very late, and Frasier was agonizing over every move, overthinking everything, and it was just taking forever. Yeah. And so he was bored. I mean,
I guess all I'm saying is that it starts off as sitcom-y and, make it, a little incredulous to how easily his dad beats him. And it just gets more and more, extreme.
Yeah.
So later on, when they're all asleep, Frasier sets off the smoke alarm to wake up his dad.
Right.
In the middle
he
of
tries
the night.
to, go in and get Eddie to bark, the dog, because the dog sleeps with his dad. So he, opens the door and flicks the lights on and off to try to, wake his dad up. But his dad doesn't wake up. And then he tries to call to Eddie to get Eddie to bark. And Eddie doesn't bark. And so he's like, oh, how am I going to wake him up? What am I going to do? And he notices the smoke alarm right outside the door. And so he lights a book of matches on fire and waves it in front of it and then blows them out and then goes into his bedroom.
And when Daphne and the dad come out to say, why is the thing going off? The smoke is still visible.
Yes, it's lingering there.
Yeah.
And you
Frasier's
would totally smell matches, right?
Definitely. Don't tell me about my new kid's fire thing. Frasier's like, oh, the machine's on the fritz or whatever. The batteries
I forgot to change
low.
the batteries, and they're both they're both exhausted, Daphne and the dad, and so they're just like, whatever, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't go off like that when the batteries need to be changed, but okay, whatever. And so they, go off to bed and back to bed, and then Frasier is like tentatively knocking on his dad's door, and he's like, well, Dad, since you're up, why don't we play another game? Yeah. And he's like, you set that smoke alarm off so that I would be awake and have to play chess with you, didn't you? And he was like, no. So they get up and they go play again. And how is it that his, Martin makes, just a wrong move. He's exhausted and he's not really paying attention, and he makes a move and he goes,
he makes
whoa,
a mistake.
Oh no, and goes to take it back, but he had already taken his hand off of it, and Frasier's like, oh, you made a mistake. Oh, I can take advantage of that.
Yeah, well, that's the way Frasier delivers this monologue as he gets this crazed, sort of quiet, like ecstatic energy at realizing that his dad has made this mistake and he's about to pounce on it. He's Sideshow Bob. This is Kelsey Grammer's Sideshow Bob performance, which is not that different from his Frasier voice, but that maniacal, malevolent energy is just so funny to me. It's the same exact style that he delivers his Sideshow Bob lines in.
Wait, Frasier does the voice of Sideshow Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Ha!
I feel like if you saw those, you would know it was him. Even like it's very distinctly.
Yeah, and
Frasier.
I feel like that's one of these things that like I maybe knew but forgot. But just having the realization again right now, it's like, wait, I don't think I knew that. Did I know that?
Sideshow Bob never sounds unlike Frasier, but when he's doing this thing when he's about to beat his dad in chess, he sounds just like him.
Oh, that's amazing! I did not clock that at all.
Yeah, and then it's basically over, and we get this sweet little moment where later at night when his dad's sleeping, Frasier just kind of pokes his head in the door and goes, "I'm sorry I won, Dad."
Well, first he comes in and he's like, "Did you let me win?" Yeah. And he's like, "No, I didn't let you win. Ugh, I swear on your mother's life and mother's grave and everything that I absolutely just made a mistake. I'm tired." And he's like, but what he kind of gets back at Frasier with is, it's really rude that you are so incredulous that I kept beating you and so gleeful in you're beating me. Yeah. You're assuming that I'm stupid. And the reason that you were so upset and the reason you're so happy now is that you think I'm dumb and you think you're better than me. And that's really crappy. And I don't like that. And so they have this whole, come to Jesus kind of talk where Martin is like, what do you think I did as a detective for all those years?
Yeah.
I always had to try to put puzzles together and stay 2 steps ahead of the criminals. Are you kidding me? Chess is the game that I played in my life. Of course I'm good at this. Of course I can see 5 moves ahead.
And in fact, in chess, you can't hide behind fancy verbiage and pretense and stuff like that. It's about raw strategy and raw intelligence.
Exactly.
And so it totally
he kind of gives a little Frasier comeuppance there, and then Frasier's like, I'm sorry I beat you, Dad.
Yeah. So in terms of tracking the trope, it's different. In some ways, it's sort of the opposite of Danny Thomas, in that instead of getting one chess game that takes place over a decade, we get a dozen chess games.
In 2 days, 3 days.
Exactly. But you totally see that thing that we were talking about of this is just one of those things in our culture that we've imbued, or some of us have imbued, with this importance, and this being good at chess means something.
Yeah, it means you're smart.
Yeah, part of being an academic or an enlightened person is you're good at this. And so, yes, it undermines your sense of self if you're somebody like Frasier and, your dad, who is a city cop or whatever, can beat you at chess.
Yes, it undermines my sense of self to be bad at chess, which is why I don't like to play. So there.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you totally see it's the game that was made for sitcom stories. All right, moving on to Bernie Mac Show. Okay, that was our segment from the chess episode. We're now going to get to our Shakespeare podcast, but first, a few more random rolls, as it were, from the cast of Frasier. 1987. Year of our Lord. The film Moonstruck.
Ooh,
right?
Moonstruck.
Very celebrated motion picture.
Never saw that. That's one with Cher, right? That she
Cher,
won the Oscar for?
Nicolas Cage and Cher, I think both maybe won Oscars for that.
Wow.
Definitely were nominated. Very, very successful film. Who played the role of Perry in the 1987 film Moonstruck?
I am going to guess David Hyde Pierce.
Incorrect.
Dang.
It was John Mahoney
Oh, man.
who played that role. Let me just indicate that you got it wrong. Okay.
You keeping score for me?
Another VO performance. This is one of my personal favorites. I think this is also an underrated film. The 1997 Don Bluth animated picture Anastasia.
Yeah.
Who played the role of Vladimir?
Oh, that's like the young guard guy that ends up helping her out, or is that you're not going to tell me. It's either the young guard guy who is her foil in the Broadway version. I don't know what he is in the movie version.
The story, they add songs to the Broadway version and change it a little bit, but they're pretty similar.
And then there's the other guy who's like her co-conspirator. Is that, you won't tell me if that's Vladimir?
They're the two guys she meets, the younger guy and the older guy.
Yeah, but then there's also the guy that's the guard, like the inspector guy that's like her.
Oh, yes. And that character is not in the movie. That's why I wasn't.
I understand. That's okay. So it's not going to be that guy. It's not going to be like the Russian guard
I'll
guy.
go ahead and tell you, the younger guy, her love interest is Dmitri. His older friend is Vladimir.
And the older friend is Vladimir. Is that Kelsey Grammer?
That is Kelsey Grammer, exactly. That role, of course, had songs in addition to dialogue.
Did
and
he
Kelsey
actually get to sing them?
He busted out his tossed salad and scrambled eggs voice. And yes, you can't. Kelsey Grammer is one of those guys. It's like Robin Williams in an animated thing. You can't just swap out another voice there. His voice is so distinct. And yes, he does. He doesn't do a ton of singing in that, but he has a couple songs. All right, very good. Another animated film here. Barbie of Swan Lake, the 2003.
This is like a direct-to-video.
I believe this is a direct-to-video entry in the Barbie franchise. Who plays the role of Rothbart in the 2003 film, quote-unquote, Barbie of Swan Lake?
That is wild. I'm going to guess Leaves.
Nope, I tricked you again. It is Kelsey Grammer twice in a row.
I mean, Rothbart was like male coded, but what year was it?
2003.
I guess I could have maybe thought more about that a little bit, because didn't he go through a nasty divorce there right around the time that the Real Housewives franchise started, because he put his wife on it, and that became like the blueprint for how to leave your wife in Hollywood was you got him on Real Housewives?
I don't know.
You don't know any of this,
I
but
can tell
I do.
you.
Our listeners who are interested in Real Housewives will know the exact lore. I've just heard tell.
Well, look, these guys and gal for that matter, have very distinctive voices, so it's no surprise. You look at their IMDb page, lots and lots of voiceover work.
Yeah.
Okay, last one before we move on to the next segment. Switching gears just a little bit, the 1995 biographical film Nixon.
Okay.
The Oliver Stone motion picture Nixon, in which Anthony Hopkins played the titular president. Who played the role of John Dean in Nixon?
Oh, I'm going to go with Mahoney in this one. That sounds like a very Mahoney role.
It does, but it's not.
Dang it!
It was Mr. Hyde Pierce played John Dean in the film Nixon by Oliver Stone in 1995. Okay. We've got a few more of these, but first we're going to listen to our segment from the Shakespeare episode. This was one of my favorite tropes I think we've ever done. This was the one where in Gilligan's Island, I guess we had narrowed it down to Hamlet, right? So all of these things were about Hamlet.
Yes.
So yeah, they put on Hamlet in Gilligan's Island. They did it in Happy Days, and Fonzie had to be Hamlet, right?
Yep.
In Head of the Class. That one I don't even remember. Oh, that was the one where Mr. Moore was Hamlet in like an off Broadway production. That's right.
And they wanted to go see him.
Yes, this was a very fun podcast. And yeah, the final segment in this one was about the Frasier episode from season 8 called The Show Must Go Off. And here it is. He's going to go to.
Right.
All right, let's finish it up with Frasier.
Season 8, episode 12, The Show Must Go Off.
Yeah, the thought that I had during this, watching Frasier and Niles standing next to each other, watching this Shakespeare thing, was if there could have been a production of Julius Caesar with Kelsey Grammer as Brutus and David Hyde Pierce as Cassius or something along those lines. Oh, that would have been incredible. Yeah. These two guys.
Like amazing. The four, I mean, you know my feelings on John Mahoney. I think he is an amazing actor. Like, I think I love David Hyde Pierce. I think he's friggin' hilarious. John Mahoney can do drama and comedy and music and everything. He's amazing. And then you've got Derek Jacobi, who won an Emmy for for the show as a guest star. Yeah,
this is going to take a different sort of angle on this. That's really fun. So it starts at a Star Trek convention, and we have this actor Derek. I've heard it said Jacobi and Jacobi.
Is it a Star Trek? I thought it was just sci-fi in general.
Okay, sci-fi, yeah. A lot of Trek people there. But yeah, he's from this other show, a fictional show called Space Control that's, sort of meant to be like a Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica kind of thing. Derek Jacobi, I think, is great casting for this. I feel like he's meant to be this sort of actor, and this is kind of prescient because I think, when did this come out? Do you know?
This was 2001.
At this point, we've long since had Patrick Stewart on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, this is 100% his story.
Right, and now we're getting into the days of having Patrick Stewart also, as well as Ian McKellen in the X-Men, and then Ian McKellen in the Lord of the Rings.
And Kelsey Grammer eventually did X-Men.
That's true. Yeah, he wasn't as beloved, though. He was in the one that people don't like as much. But yeah, that thing of taking these really classy, older British actors, and someone figured out, specifically with Shakespeare and classical theater, if those guys can make that work, if they can hold people's attention and give a credible performance doing this Shakespeare stuff, that's basically the same skill as being Gandalf and Magneto and all that other stuff. Yeah. And Derek Jacobi is absolutely that kind of actor, and he's in the Kenneth Branagh version of Hamlet, but he was never in a Harry Potter movie. Yes. He was never in a major superhero movie. Like, he didn't get that late era thing that a lot of those other guys did. So it's kind of fun to see him playing this fictionalized version of that same thing.
Right. No, very true. So why did they end up at that convention in the first place? It was Frasier and Roz, and I think Roz was there for some reason.
Yeah, I honestly didn't.
She needed to get an autograph, or she needed to get something, and Frasier's just with her, and he turns around and he sees
Jackson Headley.
Jackson Headley, yes, and he sees him, and he's like immediately like, what is he doing here?
Yes, he's at an autograph booth signing autographs, which is what you do with what these guys do at conventions.
Yeah. So he's beside himself, and he explains to, us and Roz that he and Niles, when they were 12 years old, saw this man perform Hamlet, and he is Hamlet to them.
Yes, and opened their eyes to Shakespeare.
And then they, loved him and would watch whatever productions of him doing Shakespeare that they could get their hands on when they were kids on VHS or whatever. And they just loved him. They loved him so much. They love Shakespeare today because of this man.
Yeah.
He gets in the line to
first he
shake his hand.
He asks some random guy, like some, sort of like guy that looks like comic book guy from The Simpsons. He says, why
this guy was in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for like 15 years. That guy, he was funny. He's a local kind of Oregon actor or maybe not, maybe he's big, but like that's his story.
Yeah, but he asks him like, why is Sir Jackson Headley, signing autographs at this random place?
And they're like, Tobor?
Yeah, he's like,
that's amazing.
That's Tobor the android, from Space Control. And so, Frasier goes up to him. He's like, no, I don't need your autograph. I got your autograph like 40 years ago. I worship you. He says everything you already explained. My brother and I see every performance. And Headley, this actor played by Derek Jacobi is really touched by that. And he's like, oh, that's so nice. And then they kind of leave it. And then we pick up with Frasier and Niles, waxing nostalgic back home about this actor that they love.
Right. And Niles is super jealous that Frasier got to see him and shake his hand and tell him that. And Niles goes and finds the autograph that they got, which was on the back of an excuse note from Get Out of PE note.
It's a non-Hamlet quote, I noticed, because he says, my kingdom for more fans like you. That was the little note he wrote, but that's a Richard III thing.
There's a lot of not Hamlet quotes in this. There's quotes from King Lear and Twelfth Night, all sorts of them. And like they went deep with the quotes that weren't from Hamlet on this.
Because I guess, like we said, you were supposed to understand Hamlet was his main thing, but they saw him do all kinds of shows.
Well, but also because this is, Frasier and Niles, and they talk like this anyway. Exactly. So they're just throwing, because Shakespeare's on their mind, they're throwing these into their everyday conversation even more. I
have to say, where this story goes is pretty much as sitcom-y and silly as the Gilligan's Island story. They decide, the two of them, Frasier and Niles, it's that thing of like them escalating each other and revving each other up. They're like, we need, how tragic that this guy is toiling in these stupid science fiction shows, and they're like, what if there was a show? What if he could do his one-man show again? Well, how hard is it to rent a theater? This city's full of theaters, and they don't say it, but you've got Newark also. And then they're like, yes, we can save his career. Thank God
they're in Seattle, so they're not near to Newark, but yes.
I assume they were in the city, but you're right. I forgot that they were in Seattle. But yeah, and so it ends with like Frasier and Niles just giddy that they have come up with this idea
gonna be
to rent a theater. Yes, be producers. And it really was a shock to me when the next scene is them on a stage, like sort of like the show isn't happening. They're like, checking out a stage, getting ready to mount this production.
Yeah.
And they're selling tickets already. They just skip ahead to the show is happening. Everything's been booked.
I got the impression that this was taking place over like a month, not like it was the next day or
No,
or
I
quickly.
think that part might have been, but once that next scene starts, I thought that they were a week or so away from opening, even though they haven't seen him act yet.
No, because Jackson Headley says as he comes in and like grabs the curtain and starts being like, oh, Horatio, and like doing all this crazy over the top acting, to the point where every time he takes a pause in his lines, he goes like this, and like this crazy inhale breath.
That is the turn of this story, is that when Jacoby shows up to this theater and, oh my God, thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to this.
I can't wait to get started, which is what made me think it's not as far along as you were thinking.
And then when he starts doing it, he starts acting, he's almost, he's like the way someone on a guitar would just start noodling. He's like, oh, here I am. Let me just start doing some of the verses. And it's hammy and ridiculous. And he does these crazy inhalations.
And he's like gasping with these big breaths. tense.
Yeah, and so
it's
Frasier and
really
Niles
are like, oh no.
Yeah, they're
so
like,
then they go home and they somehow get their hands on a recording of some production that he did, like a King Lear or like a Henry, one of the Henrys or something years and years ago. And so they're watching it. And he's doing that same breathing thing. It's awful. And they have this realization, which for me, this was like, wow, this is this show imitating our show over and over and over again.
What do you mean?
Because they realized that this thing that they liked when they were 12 years old, that like introduced them to what they thought was, the world of Shakespeare and everything. And this guy was so brilliant. Yeah. They didn't know it was like, it was bad, but they didn't know it was bad because they didn't know any better, which has definitely happened to us so many times on this show. We're like, oh man, I loved that show. And then we go back and watch it and we're like, ooh.
Yeah. Frasier says the man has no instincts, just stinks.
Just stinks.
Right?
That's right.
Interesting wordplay. But so Jacoby comes over and they're like, all right, we're going to have to we're just going to have to cancel the show. We're going to have to tell it like it is and tell him that
you tell him the director dropped out, so we're going to have to cancel.
Yeah, but then he cuts that off at the pass, I feel like.
Because he fires the director.
Yeah, and so Frasier ends up going like, all right, Mr. Headley, you deserve honesty, so I'm just going to level with you. And he goes, this rehearsal time is far too short to reach Parnassus, home of the muses. And then Niles goes, forgive us for being so straightforward. and
he's like, oh, I have never worked with producers that didn't try to wimp out at the last minute. Yeah. And they exchange a look like, we know that feeling. We know why.
He does that sitcom thing of just like, oh, no, I'm not hearing it. And just like won't really absorb what they're saying. And just like, I can't wait. And just leaves without letting them like do anything. Yeah. But in any case, they skip ahead to the sold out show. It's the night of the show. And Frasier and Niles are still like, what do we do? This guy sucks. Everyone we know is here. Everyone he knows is here. They start having this idea of like, maybe we've exceeded maximum occupancy. Why don't we call the fire marshal and maybe he'll shut us down? They get this idea about Jackson. He says his dad's coming and his dad's his good luck charm. Maybe if we divert his dad, they're just kind of like all these different things that they're trying to get him to not go on.
There's a little bit of like a Frasier, like for fans of Frasier, because we're deep in the series, right? This is like season 8 of Frasier. So there's a little bit of like Easter egg for Frasier fans. If you watch Frasier religiously, you know that Frasier and Niles are big fans of this show, of the old Avengers from the 1960s.
Diana Rigg.
Yeah. And even like go so far in one episode to talk about how they idolize this character of Steed.
John Steed.
And they would dress up like him all the time. Well, so the actor playing Jackson Headley's father is Steed, is the guy who played Steed way back in the day.
Yep. He looked familiar to me. That's funny. And so they try all these ideas, like they do implement them. They send the dad to the wrong theater and they call the fire marshal, but it's like nothing works. The fire marshal is a fan.
He's happy, right? So we find out that Jackson Headley's happy that his dad isn't actually there. He doesn't have to hold himself back now that he knows his dad isn't going to be nitpicking every little thing. He can really let it. Yeah. He can go even more over the top than he's been. And of course, they're freaking out.
We learned that his dad was only his good luck charm in the sense that he tells his dad, oh, hey, you're my good luck charm.
My good luck charm. And so the fire marshal isn't going to make it because there's a 5-alarm fire across town. So Frasier gets up on a ladder and tries to set off the sprinklers, but the sprinkler only comes on while the flame is licking it and then immediately turns off again.
Eventually the fire marshal does come, but he's such a fan of Tobar that he's like, I don't care. Like, I'll sit in the aisle.
Yeah, I'll sit in the aisle. I don't care. And he's like, but we're sold out. We're over capacity. And he's like, I love this guy. I can't wait to see him. Yeah. And so he's like, oh, thank you so much. And then the dad walks back in and he's like, oh, great, you're here. I've got to go on. And he walks through the puddle from the sprinkler that was on for just a moment, slips, falls, hurts his back. And they're like joyous. They're like, yes, we can go out and cancel the show. Frasier goes out to give a little curtain speech saying, I know you came to see this and is about to say, I'm so sorry.
Can we just say, before we wrap up the story. I found this so stressful. Like this whole
it was very like
storyline.
farcical there at
It
the
is
end.
farcical,
I enjoyed it.
and it's one of those things you're not supposed to take seriously, but this notion, this whole story about trying to protect this guy from embarrassing himself, and this whole thing of like we have to cancel the show, and like I want to go out and tell everybody to go home, and the show's not going to happen. Like, and maybe it is because we're in the midst of going to these film festivals and stuff, and I get nervous about, you know, these events. Like, I found this whole thing, all of this sort of backstage preparations, and like they're trying to have the show get canceled.
Yeah.
Like, I found this whole thing stressful.
Well, that's so funny because I did not. I was enjoying the farcical
you took it how
element
it's
of it.
supposed to
Yeah,
be.
I was just having a good time with it. And I thought less that they were trying to cancel it so that he wouldn't be embarrassed. I thought they were trying to save their own face.
Well, they
by,
say it's both.
You know, saying that, yeah, exactly, that they were sponsoring this drivel that
it's
would
going to be
awful
a disaster for everyone.
for everybody involved. And so he goes out, and as he's like giving this curtain speech and about to say, so I'm sorry that, you know, the show's going to be canceled. Unfortunately, like before he can get the words, I'm sorry out, you see Derek Jacobi like army crawling with a strained back on
Dragging
the
himself.
stage, like a dead leg, and like
or like
crawling
James
on his
Caan at the
arm.
end of Misery, trying to get away. Yeah.
And he hauls himself up into the throne that's there, and he's like leaning over the side. He's got his legs sticking out. His medallion is askew.
Yeah.
He's sweating profusely.
Yeah, now he's more like Richard III, like the weird hunchback
exactly.
thing.
So I guess he's like, the show must go on. He's got to go on no matter what. And Kelsey Grammer's just like, so here it is. And he walks off stage, and that's it.
Yeah, we get that great sitcom type ending where Jacoby launches into his hammy, weird soliloquy, and it fades out. And it's one of those endings I'm starting to realize more and more. It's what we talk about with the shows for adults, like Mary Tyler Moore and Perfect Strangers, where it can have these endings that are, it's not like it's, you know, black-hearted and nihilistic or anything, but it's like,
Doesn't have to be a happy ending.
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't need to resolve anything. They don't need to learn anything. Like this whole thing that they were trying to avoid, the whole episode that he went on stage and embarrassed everyone, ends up happening.
Yep.
And they just same thing like, you know, Big Bang Theory, when Sheldon gets up, he wins the award and he gets drunk and he makes a fool of himself. And it's like, because you don't need to have the Miller Boyette thing of like, okay, what did we learn from this? Let's make sure no one's feelings get hurt. You can have it just end like that, where it's a little more of a sort of existential note, or like, yep, I guess they did all make a fool of themselves. And yeah, it's fun. And you don't, and just in terms of like pacing, you can then spend the whole episode on the fun part, and you don't have to allot the last 4 minutes for this dumb like wrap up where
or
everyone
10
learns.
minutes. Yeah, exactly. No, you're exactly right. And then there's a fun little button where they're backstage and they're kind of like whisper talking. You can't hear them. It's just like the music, you know, tossed salad and scrambled eggs is going over it. And he's like leaning over talking to Niles, and Niles is like, what? And pulls out earplugs because he's not trying to listen to the show. And then he leans over and talks to the stage manager, and the stage manager does the same thing. Like everybody has in earplugs because it's just so long and annoying that they don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And this one, we should say, is the least to do with Hamlet, right? It falls into our category because he's usually reciting Hamlet. That's like the thing that he's going to do for his one-man show, but they really don't get into at all the themes of the play or anything. This isn't one that's going to use that as a metaphor, even though we do get, you know, a few of the quotes like we mentioned. But so, I don't know, looking back over these, this was very fun to me. I really liked it.
Quite stylish.
Okay, that was the Frasier segment from our Shakespeare episode. The next one is going to be our 100th episode trope, where we talked about Frasier and I Love Lucy and The Middle and Blackish. But first, a few more feature film roles from the Frasier cast.
All right. I'm anticipating one that's going to be in this round. And if it's not in there, you and I are going to have words.
Okay, well, look, maybe there are some deliberate omissions to keep you on your toes.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm going to say this one Some of them are still a little bit on the easier side, but we've got some tough ones, including this. The 1994 film Mr. Right, spelled W-R-I-T-E.
Okay.
What is this film about? I have no idea. I do not recall it ever existing.
I've never heard of this movie.
This was not... Because there was a film with Ellen DeGeneres in the 90s that was...
called Mr. Right.
I think it was Mr. Wrong.
Oh,
maybe she had
okay.
a film that had a similar title.
A similar title.
I thought
or
maybe
Ms.
this was
Wrong
that
or something.
It's not
Mr. Wrong.
So whatever
And
the
then
hell.
there's one later on with Anna Kendrick and Sam Rockwell called Mr. Right.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Right. Now that I'm looking into it, this was a Paul Reiser vehicle from 1994.
Okay,
the rare
fun.
Paul Reiser starring vehicle. Aspiring writer with no talent gets a job on a TV commercial, falls for an advertising executive. Remember when that could be the premise for a theatrically released movie? Didn't have to be Thanos opens a portal in the sky to destroy the universe. Anyway.
Part 6.
Okay. 1994 film Mr. Right. Who played the role of Wiley?
The guess I have is David Hyde Pierce because he is a wily character.
Interesting logic, but incorrect. That was Jane Leeves.
Nice.
Jane Leeves played the role of Wiley in the 1994 film Mr. Right.
Starring NBC sitcom stars, apparently.
And remember, if you're going to go look it up for your Paul Reiser movie marathon, it's W-R-I-T-E. Okay, now we're getting back into my wheelhouse. One of my other favorite films, another Coen Brothers joint here, Barton Fink, 1991. Again, excellent performance as W.P. Mayhew. This was a film I made you watch with me.
Yes, you did.
So you can see, let's see how much attention you paid. Who played W.P. Mayhew in Barton Fink?
That is definitely Mahoney.
John Mahoney, yeah, and it's funny, his character is so different in that, you know, I was never super into Frasier. I was very into the Coen brothers. It was only way after the fact that I realized that it was him. Because in this movie, he's a Southerner.
Yes.
He's drunk all the time.
Yes.
He's just like this wild character. And it's just so different from his
so good to
hard-scrabble, you know, character on Frasier.
Yes, he's so good to watch. My favorite performance of John Mahoney's, and you can find it on, you won't ask about it because it's a Broadway show. You can find it on the PBS Great Performances. It's House of Blue Leaves. And it is, it was a show that it was on Broadway in the like early 90s, maybe late 80s or something. Ben Stiller, very first, I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. Yeah. It's his Broadway debut. He is very young. It's like an 18 or 19-year-old Ben Stiller in it. Christine Baranski's in it. Swoosie Kurtz is in it. What's her face from What About Bob? The wife is in it.
Julie Haggerty.
Thank you, Julie Haggerty.
Actress.
Excellent actress. Like it's just a banger cast, and John Mahoney plays the lead, and he shows such range. Oh, such a good show.
Right on. Now, here's another movie from the 90s I forced you to watch. In the Line of Fire from 1993, where Clint Eastwood played a steely Secret Service agent who had to protect the president from John Malkovich, the evil assassin.
This is one that I saw before we watched it together, though.
Okay,
so this is a movie I've seen multiple times.
Then you have all the more reason to know.
Get it wrong.
Who played Sam Campagna in the 1993 film In the Line of Fire?
Oh, goodness. I have no idea. Sam Campagna. What a name. Kelsey Grammer.
That's Mahoney again.
All right. Look at that.
Yeah, that's pretty much your standard. He's the boss, you know. At this point, that's just a straight up like, he's
if
the
I knew
boss.
it was a cop, I would have said it was Mahoney.
He's the boss. He's the chief. It's just, you know, like your standard, you know, like NYPD Blue type role. Show up for a few days. Okay, last one in this round. Another classic of the 90s, Sleepless in Seattle. 1993.
Yes.
Who played Dennis Reed in Sleepless in Seattle?
That is David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce, of course. I think he's basically just in that one scene, right? That very, very funny dinner scene where Bill Pullman comes over to Meg Ryan's house for dinner, and they got the big long table and lots of great characters. And yeah, he's her cousin or whatever.
Whatever. Parker Posey shows up in there too.
Well, that's You've Got Mail.
Oh, shoot. I always do that with those movies.
Yes, they
every
are very
time.
similar. They're the same director, same cast, and basically same story. So understandable. But yes, that was David Hyde Pierce.
Who's the friend in You've Got Mail that's like also the boyfriend? Is it Greg Kinnear?
Greg Kinnear
there you go.
is Meg Ryan's Baxter, as it were, her incumbent boyfriend that she needs to leave for Tom Hanks.
So she can get with Tom Hanks. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to finish this up with our segment from the 100th episode podcast. This was, of course, the 100th episode of our podcast.
Right.
So we
watched other 100th episodes.
Yes, we watched I Love Lucy, Frasier, The Middle, and Blackish. And like we said before, this is all about Frasier's adventures on the 1000th anniversary of his show. So here it is. All right. Well, now that we're moving on, we're definitely going into the world of a much more self-conscious sort of official 100th episode. Let's talk about Frasier.
Season 5, episode 4, The 1000th Show.
Yeah, so this is one where, this is the same thing that they did in 30 Rock, basically, for their 100th episode. If you're making a show about people making a show of some times and you want to celebrate an anniversary, have them have an anniversary inside the show,
yes.
Right? But Frasier is, I guess, a daily radio broadcast, right? So for this to make sense, it has to be their 1000th episode of, what is Frasier's show called? Do we know that?
Oh, I don't know.
Mysteries of the Mind.
I think it's no, I don't think it's that at all. I think, his tagline is I'm listening. So I think it's just, the Dr. Frasier Crane show or something.
Gotcha. Well, this one, it starts in the coffee shop. I believe this was one of our nominees
always do.
For our best hangouts. And this is a very straightforward sitcom-y story, and I say that in the best way possible. I feel like this is a nice thing to hang your hat on. It starts with Frasier is being accosted by his fans, right? People are recognizing him in the coffee shop, and Niles is jealous, and this is all going to be about Frasier's 1000th episode is coming up, and he doesn't want them to make a big deal of it. Oh, it's so embarrassing that they're probably going to want to do some sort of special thing, throw some sort of party, or have some special event or something. And isn't all that hoopla so tacky and stupid? And that's not why I do it. And he's doing all of this sort of like, oh, I'm too respectable for that.
Right.
And in reality, that's exactly what he wants.
Yes, exactly. And so that opening scene, the barista knows Frasier's order, but doesn't know Niles's order. And they're there every day, every morning. They order the same thing. So Niles gets his little, panties in a twist about that. And then we see that kind of play out throughout the episode where he's jealous of the attention that Frasier's getting for this, 1000th episode and wanting the same sort of accolades in his own career. And then towards the end, he comes up with like, oh, look, I was mentioned in Psychology Today as an author of one of these papers. And it just so happens that at that same time, Frasier's sort of machinations at his work have now turned into that the entire city is proclaiming that weekend or whatever, Frasier Crane Day.
Yeah, that's because when he first came in, Roz told him, don't worry, they called and asked if you wanted a celebration for your 1000th episode, and I shared with them your wishes that you think that's all tacky.
Yeah, she totally calls his bluff. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because she knows he really wants it.
Yeah, and then he has to go like, well, don't I owe it to the people, or, he makes up some phony thing.
And he kind of turns it around, and he's like, well, I mean, something small wouldn't be bad. And I do understand that the people want to celebrate. And so then she hears what he's saying. She, calls them back. She gets it done. And now it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The mayor's going to be there. They're going to give him a key to the city. It's going to be proclaimed Frasier Crane Day. And Niles walks in with this big announcement. And he's like, I know I've been feeling a little jealous of you recently, Frasier, but look at my big announcement. And it's like he's the last author at the bottom of the article of this, in this obscure psychology journal.
We've got 2 weeks in a row now. Last week we had Dick from Third Rock in the Sun saying, I was published in a collegiate article or something, and it was his picture in the yearbook. In this one, it is at least in an academic context, but it's Niles being mentioned
as one of
in
the authors.
A footnote in this publication. So it is, kind of a stretch.
And so the whole you've got Daphne's there, and Martin, Frasier's dad, is there, and they are hearing him go on about this after having just heard about Frasier's huge event. And everyone is just like, oh, Niles, that's so nice. And they decide, what, we're just not going to talk about what's happening with Frasier's upgrades in terms of everything, because we don't want to take him back to the jealous side of things. So then in the next scene, Niles has now heard about it, and he just keeps sniping. He keeps being like, oh, I forgot to send my Frasier Crane Day cards.
Yes. He gets some very funny little barbs, of mocking the notion of Frasier Crane Day as a holiday.
What is the greeting? Do we say Merry Frasier Crane Day? Do we say Happy Frasier Crane Day? How do we greet one another? Is it a bank holiday? Will we have the day off? He has all of these little things. And, and he's trying to play it off like he's not saying that because he's jealous, but Frasier knows that's why he's doing it. So everyone's just kind of letting it go. But David Hyde Pierce, is perfect at playing those kinds of roles. So it's very funny.
Yeah. And then the whole second half of the show is going to be Frasier and Niles going to this, they're having the event at the town, or the Space Needle.
Yeah, they're having it at the park in front of the Space Needle.
Seattle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what is special about this episode, right, is that they shot it on location in Seattle.
They sure did. This episode turns into a single camera sitcom.
And they have all of they have them walking through the streets of Seattle. They go to Pike's Place. They go to the market, that big open air market that they have in Seattle, where they throw the fish, and Niles almost gets hit by a fish, and he spills coffee on Frasier's shoes, and then Frasier's so vain that he spends 45 minutes trying on shoes and eventually buys a pair that's too small.
Niles gets to say the line. I love, every episode of Frasier, you've got to have your little Niles and Frasier's vocabulary moments. He says, "Never in my life have I heard such caterwauling over a pair of shoes."
Because they were suede shoes, and now there's coffee on them. So it really is a celebration and a love letter to Seattle, the last half of the episode. And what paralleled with this is that, so September 11th, 1997 in Seattle was proclaimed Frasier Crane Day in real life. And so the very last scene in the show that we get to see, it's like an after credits little tag, is, remember the guys who the doo-wop group, the Acapellas or whatever their name were, the Rockapellas, they sang the Carmen Sandiego theme song. Well, so they joined Frasier on stage for an a cappella version of "Don't Know What to Do with My Tossed Salad and Scrambled Eggs."
Yeah, that's
And so that was at the very, very end, but it's footage from the actual Frasier Crane Day.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, what's happening in the show is they're not making it. They're having this crazy misadventure, Frasier and Niles, and they're getting delayed. They're on the elevated train, and
they're
that's getting held up. Yeah,
that's like a quintessential Seattle thing that they are shouting out.
And yeah, I just, I'm always a nerd about the productions of these sitcoms, the single camera versus multi-camera. Is the audience real or not? And so this was wild. I guess this was at this time in the late 90s, like Friends was doing this sometime too, where It was primarily a multi-camera thing shot in some studio in LA, but it was shot on film. Just the technology in general, like these were top-notch NBC shows. And so when they did sort of take the crew out to a location like this, it wasn't like when Benson or Full House goes to Hawaii and all of a sudden it looks like it's shot with a camcorder. Like they sort of smoothly transition into like, it looks more like 30 Rock or the shows that would come later, where it kind of looks like a movie, but the shows already looked pretty good even when they were bound in the apartment. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's both like a little bit strange to see them out on streets and they're clearly really streets and everything. And yet like it doesn't clash as much as when those 80s sitcoms or even the crappy 90s sitcoms would try to take the show on the road.
For sure. And this one is like, again, this is what we were talking about. They went to Seattle. They shot this on location. They made it special because they were doing it for the 100th show. This was like they were trying to be, exciting and new and different and special. So Frasier doesn't make it to his celebration. They're on the monorail and it's right before they get to the station where they need to get to, and they're having an electrical problem. So he's like up against the monorail window looking out at his rally, and he's been on the phone with Roz, and everything has gotten started without him. He had his dad go up and make a little speech, and they've been...
his dad is reading jokes that he wrote, that Frasier wrote. So nobody likes them. You get a reaction shot from the dog, like grimacing when the dad's reading the bad
like
jokes.
Covering his face. Yeah. So the rally has started. The broadcast has started without him. He's not going to make it. Their monorail gets turned around and has to go back to the last station. So he knows now he's not even going to get there, in time. So then they get off of the monorail and they're like, well, let's cut through this alleyway and then we can run. And then they get mugged in the alleyway. And so now they don't even have a cell phone anymore to be able to call Roz and let her know that they're not going to make it. Frasier starts running and his feet hurt. And so, cause he's got these shoes that are too small. And then,
at some point they steal a quarter from a blind man. Is that before or after? Cause that was one of the funniest moments.
It's after. There's a musician like busking on the street and he's blind, and they're like, well, we have to call Roz. So like Frasier creates a distraction and then Niles picks up the quarter.
Yeah, but Niles goes, when Frasier suggests it, he says, you can't be serious. He's blind. And Frasier goes, I know, it's the first break we've had all day.
Yes, exactly. And then schoolgirls see it happen, so they start chasing them.
Yes.
So then they're running and running, trying to get away from these schoolgirls. They think they've lost them. Niles is like, oh, I can't run anymore. He's like having a hard time breathing. And Frasier goes out to the street and just happens to like come upon a guy that's a chauffeur. And he's like, hey, are you trying to get somewhere? I'll take you there for free. It's fine. And it seems a little weird and a little magical. Like, who's this guy? Is he gonna? And so he decides not to wait for Niles.
Yeah, he says, the guy goes, what about your friend? Do we need to wait for him? And Frasier goes, he'll be all right. He's got street smarts.
So off they go, and I keep waiting for that next shoe to drop. Like, this guy's gonna, he's telling him this sob story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna go drive off a bridge or something. Like, that's what's happening here. This is awful. But he's telling him this sob story, and Frasier gets more and more sucked in to, like, being the therapist in this moment.
Frasier starts listening to him, giving him advice. The driver is saying, I'm upset because my wife, whatever his thing is, and Frasier is being a therapist.
Yeah.
And this, in true sitcom style, this is reminding Frasier of why he got into this in the first place, helping people.
And exactly. And so it's going back to what he had said, that he didn't need all the pomp and circumstance because he does this for the people, but then he got wrapped up in his own ego in the way that Frasier always does. And so they get to the rally and there's still 5 or so minutes left. He could absolutely go and make the appearance. And he says to the the chauffeur, you know what? Let's just, take another lap. I'm really enjoying. I want to hear more about your story. And so the guy turns around and he gives him like a whole free therapy session right there. And that's the end of the episode.
Right. That's the last note of the episode, except like you mentioned before, the little post-credits thing where Kelsey Grammer is singing with rockapella from Carmen Sandiego. But yeah, we didn't mention while they were still stopped on the monorail, Frasier and Niles have a little heart-to-heart where, everything kind of slows down, and Niles says, oh, I've been jealous. And Frasier says, oh, I made up this whole Frasier Crane Day. I asked for it. It's all just my vanity. And then, in the end, again, it's a very sitcom-y story, but I like it. Like, it works. This idea that he was, sort of blustery and vain. And this guy, him seeing a way to help somebody, is more important than attending his...
Than actually getting to the rally.
Yeah. I think all in all, this is really good. This is really clever, the way that not just did they use the show within the show to kind of make a fun premise for the 100th episode. They used the setting, like you said, knowing that, these shows are always set in these cities, but we never actually go there. We shoot these whole things inside studios. So to have that aspect of it, and to have it maybe actually be, sitcom-y as it is, more of a sort of like weighty story maybe than your average Frasier episode. Like, I think this is all good. This works without being super serious or like a super long thing or anything.
No, they did it. It was a very like nice way to say, thank you to Seattle for being our hometown, even though we're never there.
Yeah.
and like highlighting some of the businesses that are there that they never actually show because they have their, fake versions of the, random coffee shops that, aren't real, but just like reminiscent of. And so, and then also I thought it was really fun that the town, like the actual mayor did actually give Kelsey Grammer a key and have a Frasier Crane Day celebration, like not Kelsey Grammer celebration, a Frasier Crane Day.
Well, let's move on to the 21st century with... Okay, that's it. Those were the first 4 conversations we ever had about Frasier. This is basically the end of the podcast, but I've got a few more just to leave you laughing. I don't know. These ones are hard. These are
these are the hard ones. Okay, you save the hard ones for the end.
Just got 3
Here we go.
Tough ones for you.
I've failed at so many of the others. Now we're just going to fail right to the end. I'm going to leave it on a wah-wah. Thanks, Jay.
1988 film Vampire's Kiss.
Oh, God.
I believe this is a Nicolas Cage film. Who played...
Okay, well, now, so maybe we can do some backwards engineering here, because in the other Nicolas Cage film, wasn't it, and Moonstruck, wasn't it John Mahoney that was in it?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna keep that in mind.
Okay, please do. Theater Guy is the role. Who played the character Theater Guy in 1988 Vampire's Kiss?
Oh, man, it could be any of the guys. It really could. 1988, isn't that kind of early for David Hyde Pierce to be peeking around? But it's also, like, at that point, you've got Frasier is already on Cheers, so probably not doing little bit parts called Theater Guy in movies. I'm going to go with Hyde Pierce.
That is right.
Yeah.
David Hyde Pierce. I believe he's credited as Dave Pierce or something. They have those little annotations on IMDb when you haven't quite figured out your like
what your name's going to be.
Yes. It is Pierce who portrayed the role of Theater Guy. 1996 film Primal Fear, the Richard Gere. Yeah, I have never seen this movie, but I think it's one of Richard Gere's more notable performances, I feel like. Who played the role of Shaughnessy in the 1996 film Primal Fear?
Ooh, nice Irish name. I'm going to go with John Mahoney on that one.
John Mahoney is correct. Last one. This is, I would say, kind of an infamous film. This was kind of a sort of high-profile film that didn't really go over the way people wanted it to. Well, no, but you're on the right track. Wolf. the 1994 film Wolf, in which
my face was like, what?
Jack Nicholson played the titular werewolf.
Oh,
It's
I sort of remember this.
Horror, romance, workplace drama.
That's too many genres.
Mike Nichols, I believe, legendary director, I think, directed it. And like I said, the movie is kind of a debacle. In this film, one of the Frasier cast members played the role of Roy. Who played Roy in the 1994 film Wolf?
Wow. My guess here is going to be grammar.
That was David Hyde Pierce.
Nice. What is the role of Roy?
I'm guessing, like I said, it does take place, like a lot of it is actually about the corporate intrigue. Michelle Pfeiffer is the daughter of like the guy who owns the newspaper that Jack Nicholson writes for or something. I think he might be like Christopher Plummer maybe. And like he starts romancing her. So I don't remember, so don't quote me, but I'm guessing David Hyde Pierce is like one of his colleagues, like one
some
of the
reporter,
other people.
just another reporter.
Yeah, what I remember most about that movie is it's a really cool set. The newspaper office has like these different tiers, this like open plan with like different levels along the sides.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah, it's a really nifty set. So I'm guessing he's probably in those workplace scenes, you know, as like his work friend or whatever.
I dig it. I am always surprised at how far back David Hyde Pierce has been around because, he plays the younger brother and he reads so young. I know that he is not. I think he and Frasier are actually like the same age, right? Like he and Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm guessing they're not more than a few years apart.
Yeah, but he just, because he always read so young and he was still kicking leading man, young guy Broadway roles until, you know, just about, I'm going to say like 8-10 years ago. So I always just think of him as so much younger, but yeah, all right.
Totally. So I believe that I presented you with 19 movies, right? We did 4 sets of 4, which would be 16, and then another 3. Of those 19, you knew 14.
Wow.
So,
that's
not
okay.
bad.
I mean, some of them were definitely guesses,
bad. You
but
failed to identify Ladybug and James and the Giant Peach, Perry and Moonstruck, John Dean and Nixon, Wiley and Mr. White, Sam Campagna in The Line of Fire, and of course the beloved role of Roy in the 1994 film Wolf.
There you
go. But you got
go.
all the others, so congratulations to you.
And I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, and so there you have it. Those were some of our discussions about Frasier. I'm sure he'll pop up in our podcast in the future. And so much for the mixtape. What are we talking about next week?
Well, we're celebrating the teachers, Jay, because it's almost back to school time. And in our next episode, the teachers get to get a little freaky.
Yeah, we're talking about parents getting together with teachers. What are we watching?
We're watching The Andy Griffith Show, Season 3, Episode 29, A Wife for Andy. Full House, Season 2, Episode 17, El Problema Grande de DJ. Actually, would that be Dehe?
Or Del D. Yeah. De Jota.
De Jota. Oh, yeah, Jota Ka. I only know it from the alphabet. And we're also watching iCarly, Season 1, Episode 25, I Have a Lovesick Teacher, and Suburgatory, Season 1, Episode 9, The Nutcracker.
Yep, Parents Dating Teachers is next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the Sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.